Hello and welcome. This is Captain Aquarius coming to you doing business again today as Dan First on July the 5th of 2017 from the fascinating, magical city of Barcelona, Spain. It is literally enchanting in the sense that it makes you want to sing when you are here. It's no wonder that the tradition of Catalan flamenco and music is so amazing in a city that seems, as much as a city possibly can, to live more in the dimension of imagination than it does in the level of intellect and alleged facts. And so we're going to look at a chart cast for this place for the full moon that is coming on July the 9th. That is in this part of the world. This chart that you see here is cast for 6:06 a.m. and naturally the date of the full moon is going to be different in places that are in the central time zone of the United States and time zones to the west of there. That's when it will be on July the 8th. So we're going to look at the chart that you see here in terms of the chart itself, in terms of the mythic and archetypal relationships among the planets who are in the principal dynamics of this chart, so that we can explore through their archetypal relationships something about the effects that we can expect from this kind of chart at this time. This is cast for what is called the European hub traditional design, in which, as you see, the proportion of the houses in the chart is very irregular. It's very unlike the American hub traditional, in which all of the houses are equal in size and shape. This one is very different. It shows the actual configuration of the houses in the chart, and this is useful in a chart like this, which depends for our understanding of it on our being able to see clearly the relationships among the different planets that we're going to concentrate on. Naturally, you know that it's a full moon chart because you see the sun in the first house in Cancer and the Capricorn moon on the other side of the chart in the seventh house, exactly opposed to each other at 17 degrees and 9 minutes. But significantly, powerfully, disturbingly, there are other planets in the mix too. You notice that on the right side of the chart in the seventh house, Pluto is only 1 degree, exactly a degree away from the position of the moon in Capricorn. And over in the first house, Mars is in a near conjunction with the sun. He is in a clear opposition with the moon, but a near conjunction with the sun, but we may as well consider it a conjunction. In addition to these, another thing that we notice is the planet Jupiter down there in the fourth house, who is at a 90-degree angle to all of these other planets that we have looked at. That means that these constitute what is called a T-cross, in which you have two or more planets in a relationship of opposition to each other, and one or more planets who are at the midpoint between them, at the 90-degree leg between the other planets. This is naturally considered a stressful and difficult alignment because in astrology the 90-degree angle is considered the angle of disharmonious tension, in which the planets are not getting along, and their most negative and willful and obstreperous behaviors can be expected, so that this is not likely, therefore, to be a time when things go harmoniously and easily. It is instead likely to be a time of conflict, disputation, disagreement, the refusal to get along, and the resorting easily to any and every available means of conflict. So let's look at the players in this design. We begin with Pluto over there, who is in conjunction with the moon. He is the Greek Hades. He is the lord of the underworld. He is the ruler of the 8th house of Scorpio and is the planet of death and regeneration, the one who expresses the force by which things which are moribund and can no longer stand are eroded and swept away in order to create fertile ground in which the new things can grow. He is shown here in the crucial part of the most famous mythic story involving him. This is the sculpture by Bernini of Pluto abducting Proserpina. That is Hades abducting Persephone, who is the daughter of Demeter, the lady of the plants and the crops. Demeter, otherwise known in Latin as Ceres, is the one who is the vitalizing force of all the growing food plants in the world. And so what happens here is that Hades, Pluto, emerges out of the earth in his chariot drawn by his 4 black horses. He grabs Persephone, takes her back down into the ground to be his queen in his kingdom under the earth. At first, no one knows what has happened, but Demeter soon finds out, and she makes her case to the king of the gods, Zeus, Jupiter, that this outrage must not stand, and Jupiter, being unwilling to discipline his brother, refuses to accede to Demeter's demands, whereupon she causes all of the crop life on the earth to begin to wither and die. Jupiter soon realizes that if this condition continues, then everything on earth is going to succumb, and so he therefore works a compromise. And he therefore, interestingly, has to accept Demeter's brave action as the only person, mortal or human, ever to play hardball with Zeus and live to tell the tale. So what happens is that a compromise is worked out whereby for the autumn months of the year, autumn and winter, Persephone lives in Hades with Pluto, as we see in the images here, where, however, in the spring, she comes up to the surface of the earth and she is renewed as the maiden Kore, shown in archaic Greek sculpture looking like this, really almost boyish in her youth, whereas in this later image that we see from 500 BC or thereabouts, oh, something very different is happening here. Something very womanly is going on, and we can see why it was likely that Hades Pluto was not the only person attracted by this female beauty. So, what we have here then is a charming and universally recurring myth of how it is that life is regenerated in the spring and then begins to wither and decay and die once the autumn comes. This cycle is repeated every year and was in fact one of the key elements of the famous Athenian mythic ceremony of the Eleusinian Mysteries, whereby the ability of the earth, of nature, of life itself to renew itself, to be in that sense immortal in effect, was very much taught and celebrated. So this is one of the participants. And we have just seen another, Zeus Jupiter, who is the ruler of all kinds of institutions of authority and power and money, governments, courts of law, banks, financial institutions, hospitals, universities, corporations, churches. All of these things are ruled by Jupiter. When Jupiter and Pluto are in a square alignment at 90 degrees, is anything likely to go really well in any of these areas? Not so likely, especially when the other player who is present here at a 90-degree angle to Jupiter and across the wheel from Pluto is the planet Mars, whom we see here. He is the Greek Ares, the figure who was the most hated of the gods. Zeus remarked of him at one point, You beginner of quarrels and lover of bloodshed, if you were not my own son, I would have killed you long ago. Mars does indeed have a valuable and positive and heroic side. That is, as the person who can protect others, who can act in sacrifice for others. So therefore, he is the patron deity of firemen, policemen, soldiers, others who may defend their people and their country from harm. But at the same time, when he is in this kind of alignment with these other planets, it is unlikely that he is going to be out to protect anybody. He is out to fight now. And so that's why this particular interval of time around the days of the full moon in July are really a major exception to what we noted last time about how this interval from the beginning of June through the end of July should be a time of what the portal website calls metastability. Generally speaking, this will be the case, that people and institutions and communities find ways of coming into coalescence and alignment, but this is the major exception, especially because there is an additional aspect here connected with the one that we have just noticed. Look at the 6th house, and you see there the planet Saturn in Sagittarius, and look above this position, up in the 9th house, where you see the South Moon's node in the sign of Aquarius. These two are roughly 60 degrees apart, and therefore they form with another planet an alignment which is called a yod. That is a Y alignment. Yod is the equivalent, as you know, in the Hebrew alphabet to the letter Y. If you look between these two planets and you find their midpoint, it will be at about 23 degrees of Capricorn. And if you look on the opposite side of the wheel, you see that this is where Mars is located. So what you have here is an alignment in which the two planets that are at the fork of the Y, 60 degrees apart, are pointing to the other planet who is at the point of the Y. You see, each one of these, Saturn and the Moon and the South Moon's node, is in a relationship of 150 degrees to Mars's position. And this is called a quincunx in astrology, this kind of 150 degree angle, which is not particularly beneficial, but does indeed have its positive transformative qualities. The general principle here is that when a yod occurs, the quincunxed planet, that is the planet that is by itself, that is being acted upon by the other two, will act as a conduit of energy or as a profound or deeply felt block. Now, which one of these it's going to be depends on which planets are involved and what else is going on in the alignment. You see, it is also true that there is a planetary opposition to the quincunxed planet. That is, Mars in his position at 22 degrees of Cancer in the 1st house has two other planets, Pluto and the Moon, opposite to him, and therefore it is more likely that the malefic, that is the troublesome and difficult elements of this planet's energy are going to apply. That is, it is also possible, however, that when this kind of condition is in effect, when there is a yod and there is one or more planets in opposition to the quincunxed planet, the solo planet at the point of the Y, that there may be situations of dramatic reversal. Things may change profoundly and amazingly, it seems, in an instant. So we should therefore be prepared for the likelihood that things of this nature may occur at this time, and in fact things of this nature may be precipitated at this time by archons, by their institutions of authority, domination, manipulation, and control. It is no wonder that people are predicting false flag events at this time, because this is a natural time for them to be occurring when astrologers throughout the world and the powerful people whom they advise all know that this is a time when people can be put into fear very profoundly. And we know that this is also a time when it is possible to do anything and cover it with any kind of lie imaginable. And so, what we have here, therefore, intensely and amazingly enough, you see, is a T-square alignment with a Yod alignment connected to it, with Mars as the planet who is common to the two alignments. That is, Mars is one of the planets in the T-cross in the first house. He is also the planet at the point of the Yod. This set of two interconnecting alignments involves altogether 6 planets and both of the moon's nodes. A note on the south moon's node in the 9th house of the chart. This moon's node tends to be the stressing, splitting, dissolving force in relationships, so this is naturally what is likely perhaps to apply at this time. And we notice a couple of other things that may be particularly relevant here. Where Mars is involved, you see, we naturally want to look at the situations of world leaders who have Mars prominent in their charts or in their astrocartography maps. One notable example that we see here is the astrocartography of Donald Trump. In his map of the eastern United States, we notice that he has a Mars line with the arrow pointing east toward the ascendant going right through Washington, D.C. And he also has the other red Pluto line going farther to the west from here. And so it is obvious, you see, that this is a place where this particular character is going to approach his responsibilities and his programs and his objectives mainly by fighting for them. And so is this a time when this kind of pugnacious and impulsive Mars behavior is likely to lead to some kind of difficulty? We can bet the ranch on it. Another interesting idea here, you see, is that if these two lines in these configurations with their directional arrows pointing east are here in this area in the United States, they must appear in the other side of the planet with their arrows pointing the opposite way. Look at this map of East Asia. Look at where the lines are located in relation to China and North Korea, and you can estimate why it is that some people are much more apprehensive than they let on about the dangers of having this man in office. Now, what is going to happen with this? Who in the world can tell? Irresponsible people are talking about extreme scenarios here, and whatever else is going on, we can expect that the usual lies are going to continue indefinitely. Here's an interesting book. This is called the book Shattered by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnas, which is about the Hillary Clinton campaign, and the chapter at the end about how the campaign agreed that they were going to blame their failure on the Russians, with the result then that ever since the election ended as it did, that people who are sympathetic with the Hillary Clinton campaign have been trumpeting endlessly the lie that the Russians lost Hillary Clinton the election, when the reality was Hillary Clinton cost Hillary Clinton the election. The Russians are indeed powerful, heavy hitters, and they are by no means angelic characters, but to say that they have actually meddled in an American election is irresponsible. How to respond to all this? Get this book here, The Humming Effect by Jonathan Goldman, all about how the practice of humming can bring us into serenity and calm and acceptance. We shall need it in the days to come. Thank you very much for listening. Talk to you another time.